Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on buying and investing in Dubai. My name is Emily Despois. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Fine & Country, and I will be your host for tonight. I'm joined by a wonderful panel of experts who will explain to you how to buy, the buying process, investing, but also how to relocate to Dubai. Before I get on to introduction to the panel, I just want to remind you that there is a chat within the webinar where you can ask your questions. So if we are talking about something and you're suddenly thinking about a question, please do not hesitate to ask your questions there. We will come to questions a bit later in the session. We have already received quite a lot of questions. I will try to go through as many as possible. However, if we haven't covered everything you need, obviously we will share with you the contact details of everybody in this session, and you can get in touch with them directly. We will also share their questions, your questions with them, and they will be able to answer these offline as well. Let's start the session right now, and looking at everyone. Kieran, do you want to maybe start and introduce yourself, tell us who you're working for, with, and what you do?
Okay, thanks, Emily. Firstly, thanks to yourself, Stephen Tillman, for inviting me on this webinar today. I've started a business up here in Dubai with my son, my business partner on the call as well, Connor. My background is investment banking, and I've done a little bit of real estate, not only in the UK, but also in Dubai as well. We provide relocation services like for people, expats who are moving in from outside the UAE, and we offer them services like, for especially visas is one of our prime USPs, and that's pretty much it. I've been here for Dubai for 2 years. I very much enjoy it. It's a great lifestyle, very safe, obviously tax-free and efficient. It's an amazing environment. They've got huge plans for the future for the 2033 economic agenda, the Dubai Urban Master Plan in 2040. So the future here is extremely bright, and I think there is a lot happening, and Dubai will become very much a bigger powerhouse on the global picture.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, we'll go over to Connor then.
Perfect. So yeah, just on the back of that, so we're a boutique residency and relocation company for corporates and private clients. So we help with anyone outside the UAE looking to relocate, move their families, employees, businesses over here. So Dubai, Abu Dhabi, RAK. So that's pretty much it, essentially. So A to Z. So as my father mentioned, we deal call services around visa services, so employment visas, golden visas. Probably just a little bit about myself, my background, banking as well, and also immigration services. So I've been based here for 5 years.
Fantastic. And what took you to Dubai then?
Probably in one word, probably opportunity. I think it was on the back of COVID. I think this region was probably one of the first ones to open up, and a lot of people were thinking about it at the time. So I got lucky because I came here before, probably compared to 5 years ago, what it's like now, double the price, but also double the amount of people here. So yeah.
Opportunities, fantastic. And over to the Fine & Country team. Tillman, do you want to start and introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Emily. As you mentioned, my name is Tillman. I'm the CEO for Fine & Country Dubai First. I think with many of the audience members, Fine & Country is quite well known. However, we have really specialized on helping UK clients moving towards Dubai. Dubai is a very vibrant market, a very interesting market, but there's a lot of tricks to the game, we say. I've been here now for 3 years, worked for Top Brokerage. Jan and I had our own brokerage after that, and then we took over for Fine & Country in a sense. And really right now focusing on the investors coming from the UK that want the same quality and service and marketing standards that they have in the UK from Fine & Country and helping them with their relocation, with their buying, whether it's for their own use, secondary home, vacation home, or portfolio building here in Dubai. We surround ourselves with great partners to help with this process, whether it goes from getting their visa here as well to bringing their funds towards the UAE, really here as in a sense, a one-stop shop for anyone from the UK that's interested in relocating towards Dubai or just moving part of their portfolio in the UK towards Dubai.
Fantastic, thank you. And Jan, anything to add?
No, maybe just quick introduction. I'm Jan, I'm the sales director for Fine & Country Dubai First. I oversee all the sales here. We train the agents here so they get up to speed quite quickly here. As I think Kieran can say as well, the market here moves so fast. There's so many opportunities here, and it is keen that everybody who joins the Fine & Country team here gets to know the market, the ins and outs, the small details which are vital for the investments everybody needs to make, and in that way serve the clients, of course, with the Fine & Country details.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Steve, over to you. If you can talk, just a warning, Steve is a bit sick, so bless him. Go over to you if you can talk.
Yes, I'm losing my voice a little bit, so I don't always sound like this. But I'm there we go, I'll try. A currency specialist. So we've been helping people move money internationally around property for 25 years this year. We trade in somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 million sterling a day. And coming from the UK, Dubai is the second largest destination for people relocating last year. So we do an awful lot supporting clients with those payments and management for that dream in the sum. Saying that the specialist bits is because it's all about timing those transfers, making sure the budgets add up from when you fall in love with that dream, and you can obviously buy a property very quickly, which we'll go on to in today's session, but the exchange rate is moving a very large amount. In the last 30 days, the pound to dollar, and obviously the dirham is pegged to the dollar, has moved by 5–6%. So it really can make a significant difference to clients' budgets and how many bedrooms you end up with. So that's why we've kindly been invited to contribute and be involved in today's session. We hope it finds useful. I'll also be the one answering questions that you submit electronically. As you can probably tell, my voice is not 100%, so I apologise now if I'm not too chatty, but I want to be here and I'm here to help. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, Steve. Well, let's start then with some of your questions, and I think if we start with Tilman and Jan, I think if we start from maybe the basics, which is I'm looking to buy in Dubai, what's the buying process?
I think Jan can answer that very well. The two important things to know is that there's two different markets. You have your off-plan market and your secondary market. And those are very important to keep in mind, especially when you create your strategy of buying in Dubai. You're buying off-plan in a brand new location where you get a sort of mortgage from a developer, or you're buying something that already exists. Both of them have their benefits and their drawbacks. But I think, Jan, if you want to talk about the exact aspects of them.
So when it comes to, let's start off with the secondary market. The secondary market is quite straightforward. So let's say we have a property online, we did the marketing, we have a buyer for it, we do the viewings, and the moment that the buyer says, okay, I want to go for it, we create two different contracts, which will be combined to, let's say, a third contract, which will be the MOU. Once, let's say, for the properties, all the costs had been paid, so the service charges, outstanding bills, etc., the property can be transferred within 4 or 5 days. Quite straightforward here. So the property, let's say, from the moment you have the viewing until the property transfer can take 1 to 2 weeks. When it comes to off-plan, it's we always look towards what is the budget, what is the investment purpose, because with off-plan you can also diversify a bit more in terms of flipping the property, as people want to utilize the payment plans that are connected towards it.
I think the key things to keep in mind, either way, if you're buying in Dubai, is the requirements. One is that you need to have a passport. 2 is that you need to have some sort of other ID. And of course, you need to have the funds to be able to buy in Dubai. But Dubai moves incredibly fast. Whether it's a secondary market deal, somewhere that's already ready, you can touch and feel everything, or off-plan. Off-plan can be handled within a couple of minutes if need be. We recently had a project on a very nice new island and a project there of 274 apartments sold out in 1.5 hours. The same thing goes with secondary. It can move incredibly fast if all the finances of the current owner are in order, and finances can be moved quickly. I think, Steve, you can talk a little bit also about finances from the UK potentially towards the UAE. How quick does that go?
With moving money over, it can be incredibly quickly. So once people have bought funds, loaded the account, instructed us to release the funds, they can be in Dubai pretty much that same day, around time zones globally, obviously. But what you're probably referring to is when you're buying these properties, there'll normally be stage payments if it is a new build. And as a result of you agreeing and signing on that paperwork for that purchase, if you're coming internationally, an important variable is how much that exchange rate might move between the time you've agreed for the purchase and the time that the bill has to be paid. So there's a number of options here that we can provide. The point you'll probably mention is around forward contracts, which in essence is a buy now, pay later option. So it allows you to lock in your exchange rate without having full funds, even if the capital isn't available, which is incredibly common at the moment, in particular with stock market volatility, again from Trump, which is probably a topic all in itself that we could take a few hours to discuss and try and work out what's happening. But it is having a massive impact on currency volatility. Once upon a time, currency used to be at the bottom of the to-do list, transactional, whereas really now it needs to be very much near the top of the journey toward the to-do list that you might have if you are looking at buying in that part of the world, as it can literally make and break deals and the sizes of properties that you end up with. We've unfortunately had clients crying on the phones because they've lost it, and equally clients that have been overjoyed, and we've had lovely presents from people as we've helped them protect themselves against that downside risk as well. Hopefully that helps.
So going back to the buying process, if I am looking to buy, where do I start my search?
I think you need to start with the key question that needs to be asked. Are you buying something for yourself? Are you buying an investment property? If you're buying an investment property or for something for yourself, are you looking to rent it out when you're not there? Or are you looking to flip? Those are the three questions in a sense that need to be answered before we even start. Which of course, if anyone contacts our team, one of the first questions that we ask, to be able to best help you in your strategy moving forward. Then of course, the budget comes into mind. What is your budget? What do you have available right now? What is your monthly cash flow? If you want to buy something off plan, what can you afford? Again, the process can move very quickly. If we find the right project, the entire process can be done online, whether it's secondary or off plan. Off plan can move incredibly fast. For secondary market, we would have to get a POA, for example, here in Dubai, if you don't want to come to Dubai. Jan has had a few clients of his own that's never actually stepped foot in Dubai yet. However, they see the interest rates, or they see the rates at which real estate moves here, and because of that they were so interested that they ended up buying everything and doing the entire process online. Jan knows them quite well from the Netherlands, for example, or the UK. However, you don't have to be in Dubai, and that's something that a lot of people don't know, and something that's very beneficial.
It is, and it's such a different way of buying to the UK anyway, because you will go and visit the property before you buy. So because properties are going, and I'm going a bit off piste here, but I'm interested, because things are moving so quickly, how can you know about those opportunities and be the first almost if you're interested?
So most of the time when a developer launches a project, they will open what we call here the EOI phase. So an EOI is an expression of interest, where you pay a small amount towards the developer to show your interest in the property. Then during the opening of the EOI phase and the allocation of the units, the developer will release more and more information when it comes to brochures, amenities, floor plans, prices, all these kinds of things. And the moment, let's say, you were one of the first, so also for the EOI, you have two options. One is first come, first serve. So if you're the first one who put down the EOI, you have the first appointment, the first allocation. So you can choose the best unit. The other one is the developer, where they really go in, is that the higher your EOI is in terms of pricing, the earlier you get your allocation. So from there, you can choose a unit. If you decide to not go for that unit, you still get your money back. It's a fully refundable, let's say, interest in the property.
And I think to add on top of that, it depends who your broker is. The bigger the brokerage, or the longer they've been in the market, the more connections they have to get access and info on the projects earlier. So working with a broker that can recommend new projects that are coming up is very vital. as well as someone that can recommend the right project. You know, a small brokerage that's on the side of the street, they might not have the same impact that a large brokerage has in terms of being able to make sure that your EOI gets allocated, being the first to get the information from the developer that a new project is coming up. So it's very important to make sure that you speak with the right partner that can recommend when these new projects are coming up.
So effectively, your advice maybe to someone who is sitting in the UK would be to say, find the right broker who will help you and give you the tips on what's best for you and your situation, whether you're looking at actually relocating or if you're just looking at investing and don't even think about going to Dubai for a few years, but you still want to invest there. So first step would be do your research on brokers and find the right broker for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. And then, so you're talking about new build and second property market. What's the main difference between the two? Obviously, so they exist and they don't exist, but what are other differences between those two markets?
So of course, when you want to, let's say the big difference, what you already mentioned with off-plan, you're buying, let's say for the future, so you have to wait a few years. But with ready property, you can really start generating cash flow or move in. But the main thing is what we see with the off-plan market is also the development when it comes to quality, let's say new insights on how a property should be designed, new layouts, new amenities. No, we're really building for the future. So where we see, let's say the older properties, yes, you can rent them out immediately, but a lot of residents are now keen on moving away from those properties as they are getting older. The building quality wasn't the best at that time in Dubai, which is changing now as well. So that's why a lot of people are more focusing on off-plan. Plus, with off-plan, we are getting a amazing, let's say, supply of new locations in Dubai. Mostly with 2 new locations on the water. Last year they launched Palm Jebel Ali as well. Now, these are all locations for the future, and of course that's where you're buying from. So, and where maybe someone doesn't have the money to buy a £200,000 apartment now immediately, maybe they can afford a £200,000 apartment with a payment plan over the upcoming 3, 4, 5 years and still own a asset in Dubai which they can rent out at the time.
Okay, and so in some countries there is a risk for some developments to actually not be built, so people will lose money over buying off plan. Are there securities? How does that work in Dubai?
That's a very good question. And then we have to look back to the economic crisis that we had here from 2008 to around 2013. If you've been in Dubai, if you drive along Sheikh Zayed Road, if you're in Marina, you will see some abandoned buildings or projects which started construction but was never actually finished. And that was a big problem because clients bought here in Dubai, they paid the money to the developer said, we've hit financial crisis, thank you very much for taking the funds. Dubai is a young city. Dubai learns from its mistakes, and because of that, they came up with the DLD, the Dubai Land Department, and their control over the escrow accounts. Escrow accounts are bank accounts which are controlled by the central bank of the UAE, are allocated per project, so not even per developer, it's per project, and all the funds a client or an investor might pay for something off-plan go to that bank account. And the developer themselves actually don't have any access to this bank account except for a small marketing budget, as well as covering their costs after they have hit certain milestones in construction. The Dubai Land Department, the government entity, actually goes in every quarter to check what the status is of the project and verifies this online as well. So then funds get released for the developer. At the same time, once a project gets handed over, around 10% of the entire value of the escrow account stays in that escrow account following a year or 2 after handover to make sure if there's any rectification that they have to do, if anything breaks, those also come under the warranty of buying a new property. So they've introduced an immense amount of rules and regulations to protect the investors that are now buying in Dubai and to make it a safe market. On top of that, and maybe I digress here a little bit, but it's important to mention, we have everything monitored online. Meaning that, for example, if Jan moves into a new apartment or Steve decides to relocate to Dubai and I know his unit number, online through different platforms, I can actually see exactly which apartment he's moved in. what he rented for, how many times that apartment has been rented for, what it's been sold for, how many times it's been sold. So the entire transactions can be found and traced online, meaning that for investors that are uncertain if they're paying a good price, they can check online what the values are in that area, what the values of their neighbors might be, what the rental values are, which makes our life as brokers much easier as well, because we don't have to invent numbers or convince a client that we're right. We can show them the transactions online. And all these things by Dubai to make sure that investors feel safe and secure.
Fantastic. I know I went a bit off piste, but I find the topic so interesting. But let's go maybe over to Connor and Kieran. Thank you very much, Tilman and Jan. I'll come back to you later because we've got loads of questions for you. But let's go over how can someone in the UK move to Dubai, and what is needed actually from a relocation purpose to get to Dubai. I know that we've got a lot of questions around the golden visa, but if it's all right with you, could you maybe tell someone from the UK what documents would they need to make the move to Dubai?
So I think there's obviously a very broad question. There's obviously a lot of decisions at play there, right? So, you know, are they moving with family? Are they moving for work? What's the purpose? What's their plan? So there does have to be some thinking behind it before obviously just pull the trigger and come over. Because traditionally, probably like 5-10 years ago, people would move over and they'd already have a job kind of in place. Now, obviously, you're seeing a lot more freelancers, businesses relocate, obviously their employees are coming with them. So probably the first things to think about is obviously first kind of have like a mental plan, kind of have an idea about, you know, have you got employment, or what's your plan for work? And then after that, in terms of documentation wise, it's just the standard documents, probably very similar to property that you need, right? So obviously you need a passport to travel. Everything with the immigration process itself is completed here locally. So for UK, European and rest of the world, you complete the process here locally. You can do certain parts whilst you're outside, but usually that just adds to the time length. It's better to actually do your medical and biometrics here locally once you're doing a visa process. Probably to relate it more around the property element itself. So linking back to the 10-year golden visa, I think Tilman mentioned there as well. So they've got the Dubai Land Department, DLD. When you're dealing with the golden visa, you're going through two bodies. So you're going through Dubai Land Department and also immigration. So once you come to the country and you've got your property, so you have your documents, so you have your title deed, you have your evaluation certificate, then we can officially apply to the Dubai Land Department. The next step is approval from them. That may take a couple of days. Once they approve the property that you've got, whether that's off-plan, mortgaged or secondary, you then start the immigration process, which takes around 2 to 3 weeks. In terms of the immigration process itself, that's like handled either by companies for us, like us, or yourself, or your employer. Just depends on the reason why you're moving here. So yeah.
And so once I've got my golden visa, can I then sponsor someone with my family?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Yes, the simple answer to that is yes. You're able to sponsor family members as a primary sponsor. So, for example, a husband can sponsor his wife and children for the 10-year period. You can also sponsor your parents as well for that same period.
So does it stop then as spouse, children, and then parents, let's say brothers and sisters, or how big or small is family members counting?
There's direct family members. So brothers, sisters, parents-in-law, unfortunately, don't count.
Well, that will give ideas to some people out there.
The whole family member. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's direct family members. Probably what's quite key compared probably to the rest kind of the UK, you have to make sure your documents are attested in your home country. So if you're going to be sponsoring your children, you'll need to make sure their birth certificates are attested locally in birth country. and then they'll have to also be stamped by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs locally here. So that does have an impact on the timeline as well if that hasn't been completed prior. And the same thing goes for sponsoring your wife. You need to have an attested marriage certificate in home country and the UAE.
Okay, so I'm guessing because nowadays you're not obviously married, you have a partner. Do you have to be married then to be able to sponsor your spouse in Dubai?
Yeah,
that will
correct.
give ideas to others as well. That's great. You're giving plenty of ideas to people.
Golden aspect of things, Emily. I think we also need to mention what the requirements are for a golden visa in terms of property acquisition. As of right now, the golden visa is the most effective way of getting a visa. It's one that most of us recommend as well. And that starts off at an investment of 2 million dirham. Now, like Connor mentioned, that doesn't matter whether it's off-land, secondary, both of them at this point are eligible, also mortgage properties. Now, when it comes to recent changes in regulations, the UAE has actually changed the requirements for a golden visa upon off-land. In total, the value of the property needs to be 2 million dirham. In past times, the investor, even in the off-plan cycle, had to have paid those 2 million dirham. Because of course, you can pay your payment plan quicker that you get from a developer. However, recently they changed that. And right now, the total value of the property needs to be 2 million dirham, but you can be in the payment cycle. You need to have done your 24% down payment, 20% going to the escrow account from the developer, 4% going to the Dubai Land Department. That's the only property tax that you have here.
Okay, so which means that you can buy a property which in the end will cost you 2 million dirham, but you don't have to have spent the 2 million straight away, and you can still apply for the golden visa.
Exactly, and they've actually even improved the rules even more to the point that someone might have bought an apartment for 1.7 million. In a true market worth right now, it would be 2.1 million. In past times, they would not be eligible because the property that they bought was 1.7. However, recent rules changed again, and the Dubai Land Department now, through a valuation of the property, can see, okay, this value is over 2 million, so therefore you become eligible for a golden visa. So they changed that as well, because a few investors came back to Dubai and they said, look, a rule like this needs to be implemented.
So which means that effectively if today I buy a property that is 1.5 million dirham and in 2 years time it's worth 2 million, I could potentially in 2 years time actually ask for the visa. Very interesting. Rules are changing all the time in Dubai.
The thing is also with the golden visa and just the down payment, that's only in Dubai. With the other Emirates, you still have to hit the 2 million dirham mark.
I see. So there's actually a market in Dubai. It's not for the whole of the UAE, which is quite important for everybody listening as well.
So what's actually very important that Jan touched upon there is that every emirate gives out a golden visa. However, if you build a portfolio over different emirates, they will not really recognize that. You need to have that portfolio in a specific emirate. So if you buy 1 million dirham in Dubai and buy 1 million dirham in Al Quwain, neither one of them will actually give you the golden visa because in each eyes that you've only invested 1 million. They don't count the cumulative portfolio that you might have. Hence, we always recommend buy the 2 million in one emirate. You can spread that over different properties, but don't spread them over different regions or different emirates if you want to go for the gold visa and your maximum budget is only 2 million.
Okay, that's very interesting. And so if you get the golden visa, let's say if Dubai gives you the golden visa, I'm guessing that you still have access to all the other emirates with that visa, do you? Okay. And so for the golden visa, from what I gather, Connor, you were saying it takes a month to get it. Is that right, approximately?
So yeah, it depends whether you're a new resident or existing. So probably if they're moving from the UK, they haven't been a resident before. So they'll have to do their biometrics appointment as well, which is just a finger scan. There can be delays in booking that appointment. So for new residents, you're seeing anything between kind of two to 4 weeks to complete the process all in, that you'll have to be inside the country to complete the process. If you're already an existing resident, you won't have to redo your biometrics. You only have to do your medical, which is just a blood test and x-ray. So it's probably closer to 2 weeks rather than taking the full, 3-4 weeks to complete the process.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that
just to
visa
add to that.
is renewable then?
It certainly is, yeah, it's renewable after 10-year time frame. And as long as the key criteria is met, like i.e. the value of the property is still at least 2 million dirhams, then you can renew the visa. And just adding to what Connor was talking about, the golden visa process, there are fast track options out there as well that can speed up the golden visa application process to probably, like 7-9 working days, as opposed to what Connor just mentioned, which was 2-4 weeks.
Okay. And thank you very much both. I'll go to Steve, if that's okay, Steve, with you. Yeah, okay. So why would someone use a currency specialist like you instead of their bank?
Thank you. Well, traditionally, it'll warm up in a second. I'll get better, I'm sure. The reason why we're here is offering better rates and better service than that of the banks. So ultimately, if we couldn't save value or add money, we wouldn't be here. So most clients will have a very transactional based relationship with their bank, i.e. they need to move money, they ring the bank gives a price, take it or leave it, that's it. And in a majority of cases, they need to have a destination account to send those funds through to. Using a specialist firm, and there are plenty out there, I've got my favorite, but there are plenty out there. You obviously get a personal broker who can look after you and assist you with information and education on the potential timing of that transfer. Obviously, as the market is moving so much, as we alluded to a little bit earlier today, but equally, we can offer free multi-currency accounts, so it allows you to widen your trading window and look at currency transfer and managing that risk earlier in the process. So a number of services and values really that we're offering to try and help clients with that move to make it quick, secure, cost-effective and personable over than that you'll get through the banks. Another thing I'd simply add, which sums it up beautifully, is when was the last time the bank rang any of us? And when you're doing these big emotional movements that you've been planning for a long time, wouldn't you like to speak to someone about it?
And would I need a bank account in the country before I speak to you?
No, you don't. No, a lot of people assume that you do and therefore haven't started to talk about currency. But here, once you've opened up an account, which is free and no obligation, we in essence need to do a quick ID check, which takes a few minutes to make sure you're you and not pretending to be you. But in essence, you then have access to, well, we've got 850 accounts around the world. You have e-wallet accounts, so you can trade 30, 40 different currencies without having a destination account. So importantly, there as an example, we can lock in exchange rates and hold funds here for you until you need the transfers to be released. We had a case only a few weeks ago when we finally helped a client transfer some funds, and you probably won't guess how long we held their money for. It's a recent record. We've been holding it for 6 years. But,
6 years?
6 years we've been holding these funds, yes.
And was it, I'm guessing, beneficial?
Yes and no. Over the 6 years, in essence, the client had so many other things going on, and it wasn't a small volume of money. It was 6 figures of sums in euros, and it was over 5 and below 9. So that's a lot of money, but it all comes down to that perception from a client of their value. Why is it value? What's important? And what do they need to do? So we were keeping them aware of what's happening and how it's happening and how it's impacting that exchange rate. What we need to note is 6 years ago, interest rates were nothing. So you weren't getting anything for your money anyway. Obviously, that world and environment changed. Whether or not Trump's commentary and push on the Fed to cut interest rates will mean we'll be back down again in the years ahead, that's another conversation. But yeah, in essence, back to that prior point, you can start and you should start engaging with a currency specialist early in the process. And please don't assume that you have to have a destination account before you have the conversation.
Well, there's actually a question around themes and forecasts in currency due to President Trump. Anything that you can share with us?
Well, there is no crystal ball, there is no guarantees, but the rate of exchange has moved aggressively in recent months, which I think anyone in the market has seen. And if you haven't, please go over your power spreadsheet because your budget might be very different now. At the moment, well, traditionally it's driven on interest rate forecast. The US and Trump is well, having a massive impact globally across a number of different financial products, including currency. So what he says on Twitter, LX, does impact the power of the pound, the euro, the dollar, and everything else that a client that might be listening or watching this later, it will be impacting you. At the moment, it comes down to interest rate forecast, when interest rates are going to change, whether or not the trade tariff buffer of 90 days is going to be broken beforehand or not, whether or not that gives confidence to the economies or not. So I would stress it is incredibly fluid, and people who are consuming this now and thinking, yeah, that was a thing in the past and it's happened, it's still going, it's still happening, the market is still fluid. To give you some concept of it, at the moment, the market movement we're seeing is causing our trading floor to be like it was on Brexit. So we are 2 or 3 days a week getting breakfast, lunch and dinner in for our teams to keep them going and make sure they don't leave the desk, because there's so much movement impacting clients. It's that busy.
I went to Steve offices and they actually do. I'm surprised there's no beds under the soon there will be under the desk. So obviously, so I'm looking at buying. I spoke to Tillman and Jan, and I know what property I'm going for, and they're putting me in touch with the right developers. And Connor and Kieran are helping me with my visa and with moving over there. In a nutshell, how can you help me to protect my savings? So let's say I'm buying off plan and I'm having a payment plan, and I don't want my payments to suddenly balloon because of currency fluctuation. How can you help me with that?
Well, we don't need to make up an example. There's plenty of examples out there with clients in exactly that situation. We've had cases with clients in the last, through the last few months, that have decided, I am definitely going to be buying in Dubai. 2025, I will be having Christmas in Dubai. I haven't decided what property yet, but I know I'm going to be buying. And as a result, because of how much the market has moved, they have locked in their currency and therefore their budget before they found the property. We've had clients who have committed to new build property purchases with multiple stage payments, which could be years, as we kind of talked about, or could be incredibly quick. But in real terms, clients don't want to lock in that exchange. Well, they want to lock in the exchange rate, but they don't want to lock in the capital. Capital is best working for people, right, wherever it might very well be. So we do a number of stage forward contracts to match the invoice date of when those payments are going to be due, therefore locking in that variable so clients know how much it's going to cost. But what we're talking here is all around process, i.e. how would I do it if I want to do it? But the big question is, should I do it?
Yeah.
You know, when shall I press the go button? How do I manage that risk? And the team here is incredibly experienced at helping clients with that. Again, we've been doing it 25 years, so there's guys on the trading floor, which thankfully make me look young because they've been doing it for over 20 odd years, helping clients do this. So thousands, if not tens of thousands of clients doing this through each of those traders. So they're a really fantastic team. And they'll discuss and have a consultation with those clients in line with the access to capital, their risk appetite and what the market's doing, so they can make a risk-based approach on how you want to manage that. So because some clients will go, well, I budgeted for this, I don't want it to cost any more. Can I lock in my exchange rate before I've got an account? Yes. Before I've got all the money available? Yes. But equally, some are like, well, you know, Trump's doing a lot of things. Will he make it better next month? Well, he could. But we have that big conversation, and a client will often mirror their risk exposure to their capital exposure. So half of it, 3/4 of it, a third of it, whatever it might very well be. But equally, those traders, those account managers, clients will in essence be the client's eyes and ears in the market. You know, these things are moving and changing every day, every moment of every day, and often well into the evening. So they are proactively engaging with clients with rate alerts, spike notifications, live information around not just what the paper said it's changed, but what could change and what the banks are saying, so they can make an informed, educated decision. And I come down the view of, you know, when did a bank offer that? Yes.
Whoop, sorry, cats. Yeah, they opened the door. I do apologize. Sorry.
Because I had a client today who texted me. He bought a property last week, and I introduced Lumen to him and said, yeah, maybe in a later stage, maybe in a later stage. So he transferred the money from the Netherlands towards Dubai. And now I got a message this morning saying in the Netherlands, they're crazy right now. They want to charge me this much, you know, to do this transfer, and they're only going to release the funds in 3-4 weeks. First thing I told him, that's why we use Lumon. If you transfer to a European bank account, you don't have the hassle of the banks, like where is the money going to, because you're sending it out of the EU or out of Europe in general. And then next to that, they also have the opportunity to get better rates and also indeed get the better installment plan. So sometimes with Lumon, yes, the clients, they need a little bit of convincing, but they are quite convinced the moment they get the first hurdle already with the bank. And then we are more than happy to introduce everyone to Steve.
Especially what we've had, for example, because transfers from a private bank account in the EU, for example, to Dubai can take quite some time. And the market moves so dramatically fast in Dubai. We've actually had clients whose funds didn't arrive to the developer on time to be able to reserve their unit. Meaning we had to come up with a game plan, negotiate with the developer to make sure that they still got this unit. In other situations, they might have lost the unit. Now, luckily, we had good connections with that developer, so we could help the client. We could prove, okay, we had proof of payment and things like that. You know, the money has actually been sent. It's taking long in the meantime. However, it's a real risk. Now, using Lumon, for example, by sending, let's say you're in Germany, for example, Lumon has a German bank account where you can quickly send the funds towards. As soon as Lumon receives the funds, they release the funds from their UAE account or from their dirham account towards here. Meaning that the funds oftentimes arrive much faster and much cheaper than it would do if you use your normal bank account.
I can also give a real life example from very recently if it helps to give you an example of how much the market is moving. We were introduced to a client Monday before last. We gave them all the views of what the market was doing. They decided to do a risk-off approach. So they locked in their exchange with us on the Tuesday. On the Thursday, I got a lovely message from them saying, thank you very much. It was lovely, very useful, but equally, thank you for your help and support on us doing that, because if we had done it now, it would have cost us £80,000 more and the property would have been out of budget. So yeah, it's those kind of conversations that can really make it break it, which is why I'm proud to be standing next to these pillars of industry to help people with this journey, but we're here respectively for a reason. Yeah.
I definitely think, look, £8,000 is already painful, but what if it's, for example, with the recent fluctuations and you're talking about a property of £5 million? You know, it's almost moved by $1 million in the last couple, if you compare it to the dirham, it's almost moved by £1 million in the last couple of weeks. So of course that becomes very painful if you didn't have the right guidance when you bought.
I think talk to Steve. If you're thinking about moving to Dubai or transferring money cross country, talk to Steve. Back to Dubai, and something that I think a lot of people would be interested in as well. Are there any themes that you're seeing at the moment, places to be or type of properties to buy for those investors who are maybe thinking about whether flipping or making some money out of a property in Dubai?
Yeah, so we see a big change in trends at the moment in terms of demographics towards Dubai. And I think Connor and Kieran both hinted to this. Dubai used to be a very expat orientated place, meaning people were here on an expat contract, they were here for maybe 2-3 years. So these are small families that are perhaps looking for an apartment. However, the demographic is completely changing. Instead of people staying here for 2 or 3 years, they're now deciding we're going to spend our entire life in Dubai, or a good chunk, 10 to 20 years in Dubai. Now, if you make that type of move, you have young children, you're looking to expand your family, you're not going to be happy with just having an apartment because you don't have the room to be able to expand. So we see a massive shift towards people, families, and individuals buying villas. Now, because of Dubai's infrastructure and everyone wanting to be beachfront, because of course in a desert, the most important thing is to have water, we see a vast majority of the market being apartment orientated. There's not enough villas in this market. Now, I don't know the exact statistic, maybe Jan can fill in there, how many villas there are compared to apartments, but the amount is drastic, meaning that if you buy villas, for example, to flip down the line, that's one of the greatest things you can do right now, as well as buying in some new areas that are up and coming, especially beachfront or on the islands that Dubai has. Maybe Jan, you can explain a little bit more about that.
So yeah, what Tom said as well, you know, the islands, everybody wants to be close to the water. There is the famous story of Emaar Beachfront, where the first tower got sold out in 9 seconds, and the prices have gone up by over 200% there in the last few years. I think it shows where the market came from, where we are right now. But what we say nowadays as well is that Dubai, it's not only the families, but it's also the big corporations. They're all going towards the Middle East, and Dubai is such a interesting place when it comes to lifestyle, making new friends, you know, getting to know multiple cultures. Big corporations are getting their offices here in Dubai, and with, let's say, high-end management, you know, they're used to the high-end life, so they want to be apartment, they want to have villas, they want to have the space, etc. So what we see right now is also villa communities close to established areas, so close to downtown, close to DIFC, so it's a bit the Canary Wharf of Dubai, and close towards the Palm, that new upcoming villas are in demand.
And so that, I'm guessing that's for people, that's the trend for people relocating and the family deciding to stay in the UAE. Are there any trends for people who are just looking at properties for rental purposes, for example?
Just in general, like apartments in Dubai are still absolutely great for rental returns. I always find it quite funny when I have a conversation with let's say with an investor, and they say either in London or in Amsterdam they're getting a 2 or 3% return on investment, and they are very happy with it. And then I'm telling them, you know, with the millions that you've invested in this property, if you do that over here, you can make at least twice as much, and that's also net after taxes. And then they will be all surprised. So yes, there is everything in the market. So you can have a studio which starts from, let's say, 140, 150,000 pounds, all the way up to something which is 150 million pounds. So the market is there for everyone, because everybody is welcome in Dubai. It doesn't matter if you have a high salary, if you have a low salary. We're building houses as well for anyone who can afford it. So that's what makes the city, let's say, makes the city one. So you can connect with everyone in every different community for different prices.
Okay, and I think I did answer. I'm just checking about what I asked and what I didn't ask. So financing, actually, because we talked about, Stephen, obviously moving money from countries, but what is the best way to finance a property? Do people get mortgages, and how do you go about getting a mortgage, and what level deposit is required? How do you finance your property in Dubai?
Now again, it's a very open-ended question. The things that we need to keep in mind is that in the eyes of Dubai banks, there's two types of people. There's residents and there's non-residents. Residents can usually get a mortgage that is below 5 million dirham, where they can borrow up to 70 to 80% of the value of the property. A resident in the eyes of Dubai is someone that's been here and has their Emirates ID and has bank statements of at least 3 to 6 months, proving their salary and their earnings. However, a resident can also be someone that has a business here in Dubai. If you're self-employed, own your own business, the bank will actually want to see 2 years financials of your company, sometimes even professionally audited. When it comes to someone that's an expat, someone that doesn't live here, doesn't have a bank account and no salary here, they can usually borrow 50 to 60% of the value of the property. And they again need to prove what they earn back home. Now, what's very important to keep in mind is that off-plan properties cannot be mortgaged by the bank. They cannot be financed. Yes, right now there's a change in regulation. However, we always say, rule of thumb, off-plan cannot be mortgaged. Because what's happened in the past is that, again, clients bought with a loan from a bank off-plan. The developer in 2008, for example, left the country. The bank never actually got an asset, and the investor had to keep paying their financing to the bank, even though no property was ever handed over. Because of that, the bank said no more financing for off-plan properties. You can only finance it upon handover, or you might be able to finance the remaining payment that's technically due to the developer.
So maybe to add towards that is that in Dubai, when you buy off plan, the property is being built and the Dubai Land Department is checking the status every around 3 months, and then it will be online as well what the percentage is at that time. The moment that the developer says, all right, guys, the building is ready, the Dubai Land Department will go towards the building, and once the building is indeed towards standards, the Dubai Land Department will issue the building completion certificate. That doesn't mean your property will already get handed over, but with the building completion certificate, you can go to the bank and tell them, hey, listen, I've paid 60% now, my final installment is 40%. I want to finance that last 40%. Here's the building completion certificate. Let's start the process. That's how it is right now.
Okay. And I've got a really nice question, which I'm enjoying this one, which is, what are the best residential areas to meet like-minded expats?
We have a very different vision on that. So
well, you can both have it, or all of you. I mean, all of you live in Dubai. So what would be your recommendations?
Maybe without it sounding too much like a sales pitch, we can hear it from Connor and Kieran beforehand, and then we can voice our opinions as well.
Yeah. I personally would say I think the Greens community is a really good community. I think it's very family friendly. It's greener, obviously, with Dubai as a desert, and all round I think the apartments are relatively good quality as well. I myself don't live there, but I'm based in the financial centre, so there's a bit of a difference, less green. But if I had a choice, I think the Greens community for me.
Very good.
Yeah, I think for my take, I would say, you know, for the young professionals, I think areas like Marina, Business Bay, which is close to DIFC, the financial district, as Connor just mentioned, they're very good areas. Marina as well is a very popular area. I would probably say for families, you tend to find you're going in a little bit more inland. You've got communities like Al Barari and other areas like Emaar developments, and obviously Dubai South is becoming a very popular destination, I think, a longer term, because that's where the new airport's going to be in 2034. So you tend to find that the families tend to find like those Emaar communities as part of their mandate.
I can see Tilman and Jan just nodding a lot. So do you have your answers now?
I think, like Jan said, Jan and I disagree where we prefer to live. Jan likes the hustle and bustle of a more touristy area, while I prefer my privacy and just my, let's say, peace of mind. So I'm a very big fan of Creek Harbor, for example. You're very close to downtown still. You have amazing views. The amenities are beautiful. It is an Emaar community, like Kieran said. But I think it also depends very much on what stage in life you're in. If you have a young family, you know, then I think villa communities with parks and things like that are amazing. If you're living by yourself, in a sense, and you're a young professional, I think the hustle and bustle, like Business Bay, downtown, the DIFC region, Creek Harbor, are really nice places to be as well. You know, a lot of restaurants around there, a lot of opportunities to meet people, a lot of co-working areas and things like that. So for me, it would have to go towards Creek Harbor, for example, or in the future, Maritime City. I'm a massive fan of Maritime City.
Jan?
So currently myself, I live in Marina, but would love to live as well on, let's say, Palm Jumeirah or in downtown Dubai, because I think, yeah, that's where everything is happening. That's where you have the feeling you live in a city, but you can always escape the city. That's always an opportunity. So the moment you live in the city, you have the opportunity to go out, because anyway, you know, you will be working in the city whatsoever. So I like that. It's the fast-paced living.
Fast-paced. So there seems to be a little bit for everyone. There seems to be expats a little bit everywhere. So I think the question is more what type of life you want to live rather than the expats. You will find them. It's the life that you want to live. I'm aware of the time, so I will ask a question that you'll have to be very quick and fast to answer. And that question is, it's a question that I quite like. If you have one advice to give to someone who thinks about moving to Dubai, what would be that advice? Connor. Top of your head.
Top of my head, what word in my answer? I think embrace it. So if you know, when you make the jump and you pull the trigger, obviously after a little bit of planning, I think embrace it in all aspects. I was very fortunate because I had friends and family here for quite a few years. But if you don't, you really have to get out there. So in all aspects, whether that's sports societies, networking events, you know, schools, school networking groups, everything like that. So just embrace it.
Get yourself out there, embrace it. I like that. Very good. Kieran?
Yeah, I think Connor beat me too. I think the networking aspect of it is really, really important. I think the country is on a massive upward trajectory. Job growth is huge. There's so many opportunities out here in the spaces like artificial intelligence, financial services, fintech. You just got to find your zone, get down here, and then, as Connor's just mentioned, look to network, whether that be paddle, whether that be with other business groups, whatever. But the country is very much on the up and up.
Networking. Tilman?
It's a very good question, and I think my answer would be do it with the right partners and do it in the right way. Make sure that you do it with a reputable company that has international exposure that can help you from step A all the way to Z. There's a lot of entities in this market that are in there to fill their own pockets, that will promise you things that will not happen. It's a foreign market. Make sure that you choose the right partner to do it with. Whether it's with Connor and Kieran to be able to get your golden visa and do it in the right amount of time. There's entities out there that will say, oh, you can get your Emirates ID within a week. You book your trip here for a week, and then they say, no, it's actually going to take a month. You now need to extend your stay, extend your hotel, change your flights, give sick notice, everything like that. When it comes to real estate, there's people who promise you 110% ROI within the first month, and after that you can settle for triple the price. If it sounds too good to be true, assume it is, and do your due diligence. Dubai is a very open market. Information is everywhere. So do things in the right way with the right partner.
Finding the right partner is really, really good advice. Jan?
I think Kieran and I, we have the same problem because I want to say exactly the same. But I think also for Dubai, prepare for the hard life. Of course, on the internet, Dubai, it always shows as the bling bling and you know, the speed and all the luxury. But actually, it's quite a normal city. But you have to work very hard here to keep track of it. And also, let's say the moment you step out of the door, your credit card ping will go off immediately because everything will cost money here. So that's something you need to keep in mind.
Yeah, be careful of the shine and just make sure, as Tilman said, to find the right partners is key. Steve, have I missed anything? Is there anything that you wanted to add?
I'd say from a bit of advice perspective, please don't lean on Google and assume you've done it. So lots of people still say they've done their research by just Googling or ChatGPTing, but that doesn't class as advice. So make sure you're up to date with it and talking to the right people. Sorry.
Yeah, ChatGPT is sometimes when someone say to me, oh yeah, I went on ChatGPT, I'm just like, here we go again. Okay. So yeah, so I think as I have done a few of those webinars, and I think wherever you go, wherever you move, you do have to do your due diligence. You have to be very careful with the people that you're partnering with. You have to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and you're being very careful, because in the end you're moving huge amount of money. It is key and extremely important, and having the right people surrounding you is the right thing. So I want to thank you all very much for your time this evening. I'm really sorry that I haven't gone through all the questions. I hope that we've covered the main ones, and I'm sure that there will be more webinars to come as well on moving to Dubai, and we'll be able to answer more questions. But for now, we will share your details with Connor, Kieran, Tilman, and Steve and Jan. They will have a look at the questions and be able to answer you offline as well if there are some questions that we haven't answered. And equally, there will be a follow-up email as well with everybody's contact details should you want more information on some of the elements that we have covered tonight or we haven't had the time to cover tonight. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening or day or night, wherever you are. Thank you very much all. Bye-bye.
Very much, Emily.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.